Augustus Julius Caesar, Augustus Germanicus. A mouthful of a name for a man more readily identified by a nickname, Caligula. Born in 12 AD, Caligula's early life was steeped in the tumultuous world of Roman politics. His father, Germanicus, was a beloved general. His mother, Agrippina the Elder, was the granddaughter of the revered Augustus, Rome's first emperor. Caligula's childhood was marred by tragedy. His father died under suspicious circumstances when the boy was just 7. Whispers of poisoning and betrayal followed. His mother, a formidable woman in her own right, fought to secure her children's place in the line of succession. This ultimately led to her exile and later execution at the hands of the Emperor Tiberius. Orphaned and exiled, young Caligula found himself under the watchful eye of Tiberius on the island of Capri. Here, amidst the luxury and decadence of the emperor's court, Caligula learned the art of power. He witnessed firsthand the intricacies of Roman politics and the ruthless nature of its players. When Tiberius died in 37 AD, Caligula, then 24, ascended to the throne. He was initially received with jubilation. The people saw in him a reflection of his beloved father. Hope filled the air. Little did they know that this youthful emperor would soon cast a long and controversial shadow over Rome.
They say I'm mad, but look at the Senate. Pathetic. My horse, Incitatus, loyal, noble. I planned to make him consul. At least he'd show up sober.
Caligula's reign, lasting a mere 4 years, remains one of the most debated periods in Roman history. Was he a monster of depravity, a tyrant drunk on absolute power? Or was he a misunderstood reformer, a victim of his own time and the venomous whispers of his enemies? Ancient historians, writing after his death, painted a picture of unbridled madness. They chronicled his alleged cruelty, his extravagance, and his bizarre behaviour. Stories abound of his incestuous relationships, his desire to make his horse a senator, and his penchant for dressing as a god. Modern historians urge caution. They point out the biases inherent in these ancient accounts. Many of these historians were writing under Caligula's successors, men who had every reason to blacken his name. They argue that some of his more outrageous acts might have been misinterpreted, exaggerated, or even fabricated to serve political agendas. The truth, as is often the case, likely lies somewhere in between. Caligula was undoubtedly a product of his upbringing. He had witnessed the brutal realities of power at a young age. His experiences under Tiberius, a man known for his own paranoia and cruelty, surely left their mark. Furthermore, the Roman Empire in the 1st century AD was a cauldron of political intrigue. Power struggles between the emperor and the Senate were commonplace. The army, a powerful force in its own right, could be both a kingmaker and a kingbreaker. In this environment, even the most well-intentioned ruler could find himself walking a tightrope. The relationship between Caligula and the Roman Senate, the traditional seat of power in the Roman state, was fraught with tension from the outset. The Senate, composed of wealthy aristocrats, prided itself on its role as advisor and partner to the emperor. Caligula, however, had other ideas. He viewed the Senate with suspicion, seeing them as a threat to his absolute authority. He resented their wealth and influence, and he chafed at their attempts to constrain his power. He openly mocked their traditions and belittled their authority. Caligula's actions alienated the senatorial class. He removed senators from office on flimsy pretexts. He confiscated their property to fund his lavish building projects and extravagant games. He even went so far as to execute some senators for treason, real or imagined. The Senate, for their part, viewed Caligula as a dangerous madman. They whispered of his excesses, his cruelty, and his disregard for Roman law and tradition. They began to plot against him, hoping to find a way to remove him from power and restore the old order. This power struggle between emperor and Senate created a climate of fear and instability in Rome. It also paralyzed the government, making it difficult to address the pressing issues facing the empire. Beyond the pale Caligula's most outrageous acts, Caligula's reign was marked by a series of actions that shocked and appalled even the most hardened Roman citizens. These acts, often recounted with a mixture of horror and fascination, have cemented his reputation as one of history's most infamous tyrants. One of the most enduring stories about Caligula concerns his alleged plan to appoint his favorite horse, Incitatus, as a senator. While the exact details are disputed by historians, the story highlights Caligula's disdain for the Roman elite and his willingness to flout tradition. Caligula is also said to have indulged in incestuous relationships with his sisters. While such relationships were not unheard of in the Roman world, they were generally frowned upon, especially for an emperor. These alleged affairs further tarnished his reputation and added fuel to the fire of his enemies' accusations. Another infamous story tells of Caligula's bridge. According to the Roman historian Suetonius, Caligula ordered a bridge to be built across the Bay of Baiae, a distance of over 2 miles. When questioned about the purpose of this seemingly pointless project, Caligula is said to have replied, "So that I can ride my horse across the sea." While the veracity of some of these stories can be debated, there is no doubt that Caligula engaged in behaviour that was considered extreme and unacceptable even by Roman standards. These actions alienated his supporters, strengthened his enemies, and ultimately contributed to his downfall. Divine ambition, the emperor's quest for godhood. Caligula's reign was not merely defined by cruelty and excess. It was also marked by a profound desire for divine recognition and absolute power. He yearned to be worshipped as a living god, a status enjoyed by some of his predecessors, like Augustus. He donned the attributes of various gods, including Hercules, Apollo, and even Jupiter, the king of the gods. He ordered temples to be built in his honor and demanded that sacrifices be made to him. He even went so far as to have a statue of himself erected in the Temple of Jerusalem, a move that outraged the Jewish population and nearly sparked a revolt. This obsession with divinity stemmed from a number of factors: Caligula's upbringing, surrounded by the trappings of power, and the legacy of his deified great-uncle Augustus, likely instilled in him a belief in his own divine right to rule. Moreover, the Roman concept of emperorship was evolving during this period. The lines between ruler and god were becoming increasingly blurred. Caligula, with his penchant for theatricality and his insatiable hunger for power, took this concept to its extreme. His quest for godhood, however, proved to be his undoing. The Roman people, while accustomed to worshipping their emperors, were uncomfortable with Caligula's blatant demands for adulation. His actions alienated the masses and further strengthened the resolve of his enemies in the Senate.